morning, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, pilots, non-pilots, aviation enthusiasts, whoever you are. I just want to say a warm welcome to you. Thank you for clicking in. And today we're in our simulator, the Airbus A320. As you can see, we're parked over at gate Foxtrot 9. Today's tutorial is going to be a cold and dark startup. So as you can see, everything is turned off. Every light, every switch, every button, everything's off. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start the whole process of doing a few checks just to make sure that the aircraft is ready to be powered on. And then what we're going to do is we're going to slowly, step by step, as per the official QRH of the Airbus A320, turn on this cockpit. And this is episode 1 in a series of how to fly your Airbus A320, and I think it's obviously useful if you figured out how to turn the thing on first, and then you can fly it. So let's jump right into it. All right, first thing we want to do, engine master switches. They're located right behind the thrust levers. So as you can see right there, I'm sorry it's dark in here, so my flash might cause some problems. So engine master switches 1 and 2, they are currently in the off position. If they were in the on position, they would look like that, but we want them off, so we're going to keep them there. Engine mode selectors, that little switch right over there, that should be in the middle and in norm, which is where it is right now. Next, we come up here to the center pedestal, and we want to make sure the landing gear lever is in the down position. Then we come up to the overhead panel, which is over our head, and wipers, which are over here for the captain's side, and for the first officer side, both wiper switches should be in the off position, which they are. After that, we're going to come right up here to the electrical panel. So you want to find yourself the electrical panel. Now in the Airbus 320, it's actually quite simple because Airbus went to great lengths to make sure that pilots can find them. So they labeled it very nicely. So if you look to either side of each panel, you'll see the name. So right here, air conditioning, electrical, fuel, hydraulics, and this is your fire suppression systems right over here. But we're concerned with the electrical panel, which is right over there. First thing we want to do is we look at the batteries. We have battery number 1, battery number 2. Now in each battery, we need a minimum of 25.5 volts to be able to start the aircraft, or rather start the APU, the auxiliary power unit, without external power. We have plenty. We've got 27.3 on battery number 1, 27.5 on battery number 2.
Nice.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch on battery number 1. So we're going to push that button there. Gonna see some lights start to come up, and switch on battery number 2. That's gonna make some noises. Some other lights are gonna start coming on, and as you can see, certain elements of the cockpit have come right back on. But of course, it's not enough power to power on everything. We can even get ourselves some light here. So if we go to the dome light and make it bright, we will now get one light, which is right over the first officer's on. So I can actually see what I'm doing here. So now that the batteries are on, we've got two options. We can either start the APU and let the APU power the device, or we can use external power, which is a ground power unit connected to the aircraft. We're going to use external power, and as you can see up here on the electrical panel, external power is available to the aircraft. The hard-working men and women working outside the aircraft have ensured it's plugged in and it's available. So it says avail in green, and we're going to push that. Now that's going to start powering on everything. As you can see, systems are powering on, screens are powering on.
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
The aircraft is waking up. So each system is gonna go through their self-test, and they're going to basically initialize. primary flight displays on either captain and first officer side, navigation displays, which have just come on, and the upper and lower ECAM. And as you can see as well, the MCDUs, multi-control display units, are also up and running. The radios currently are turned off. We can turn them on right now. And even on the overhead panel up here, the third occupant radio, that can also come on as well. And the aircraft it's just been woken up from its sleep, so it's a little grumpy right now, giving us a lot of warning messages, but we're going to skip that. We're going to ignore them. And later we'll deal with those. So as of right now, the aircraft is powered on using external power. And if you come down here to the lower ECAM, and that sound you hear is actually the electrical hydraulic pump, which is being pressurized by the ground unit, by the ground staff, to be able to open up the doors. So if you remember the door page, they wanted to open the cargo doors. So they obviously had to pump a little bit of juice using a hand pump, which is connected to the yellow hydraulic system. So that's what they were doing. And that's that sound that you hear. So if you come back to hydraulics, you can see they have actually gotten enough juice that they wanted to open up the doors. And now the yellow hydraulic pump has gone off and that sound has stopped. All right. Looking at the electrical situation on the aircraft, you can see we have external power right there connected, and it's powering on, giving us AC1, AC2 going into the transfer units, then to DC1, DC2 into the batteries, and then into the DC essential and DC backed. So we've got plenty of power. Aircraft's up and running right now. Alright, so now that the aircraft is fully powered on using the external power, as you can see right there, and we can confirm that by coming back down here, bring up the electrical page, and there we go, external power. Good. Next step would be to start the APU. The APU is an auxiliary power unit. It sits in the back of the aircraft. It's a little jet engine that's going to provide us with electrical power as well as pneumatic air, which is going to help us to provide air conditioning to the aircraft, as well as internal power source to the aircraft. And that's going to help us when we need to push back and start our engines. But for now, we just want to get some air conditioning into the aircraft because we are in Dubai and things will get pretty warm pretty quickly. So let's get some air conditioning going. First thing you want to do is come up here, APU fire test. So right now, that's the APU fire button. It's closed and guarded, but we want to do a test. Now you have to forgive me, things are going to get a little loud very quickly. So we're looking for the lights and the sound. So push that button there. There's your light. There's the discharge light. You're looking for a master warning on both sides. And down there you want to see APU fire. Alright, so those are the items we're looking for. That shows that the fire suppression detection system is working. We can now release the button and that awful sound goes away. I do apologize. If any of you are listening with headphones, you should see a doctor. But anyways, we do know now that the APU fire detection and suppression system is working, which means if something goes kaboom, we're going to be able to deal with it. So now I'm gonna start the APU. APU is located right up here in the front section of the overhead panel. You can see right there, APU. We're gonna push the master switch. It comes on, and right down there automatically it brings up the APU page. Next thing we're going to do is hold down the starter button, which is right beneath the master button. Hold it down like that. And there you go. So right now we have initiated the APU start process. So right now you're going to look and see the APU is going to very slowly, the flap has opened and the RPM is starting to rise on the APU. And it's going to take a couple of minutes for it to do so. EGT is going to rise, and then in a couple of minutes the APU will be available. I'll get back to you once the APU has started.
A few moments later.
It's been a couple of minutes and the APU has started up, and you can tell that the APU is on because if you look at the overhead panel, you'll see that master is on and the starter switch, which was showing a blue on, is now showing a whale in green. And looking down here on the upper ECAM, you can see APU available. If you come down to the electrical page as well, you can see that external power is still connected and delivering power to the aircraft, but we also have APU generator available to provide external power, internal power to the aircraft as and when required. Now, an easy way to switch over is you just come back up here, and if you switch off the external power right now, like so, that sound that you hear, that's the bus system switching over to another available power source. And if you come back down here again, you'll see right now the aircraft is immediately being powered by the APU. So right now the APU is delivering electricity to the aircraft. If we come back up here again, and since external power is still available to the aircraft, we push that back in, the bus tie system switches over, and boom, there you go. We're running on external power right now. APU is still available, so I'm gonna take that page away, and what I'd like to do is get some air conditioning into the cockpit and into the rest of the aircraft, because I'm pretty sure the people at the back are gonna start complaining. So coming up here, we look for the air conditioning panel right over there. Air conditioning, very important word if you live in a desert country. Now, air conditioning, you come up over here, you see APU bleed. You're gonna push that button over there, and right now, in just a few seconds, some glorious cold air is gonna start blowing into the cabin, into the cockpit, and everybody's gonna be happy. If I come up here, bring up the bleed page, you'll see on the bleed, APU is providing air that's going into the ducts, into our pack system. And if we bring up the air conditioning page, there we go. So as you can see right now, the cockpit, it was 30 plus degrees. It's now coming down. Forward and aft cabins are also starting to cool down. So that's all good. So right now we've got our APU running and delivering glorious cool air to the aircraft. So the rest of the process will continue now with setting up the rest of the aircraft. All right, so now that we're running the APU and the aircraft is fully powered on, next thing is to continue with the rest of our steps. I've got the QRH over here, and as you can see, we've done all of these steps right here. External power, air conditioning, once the APU is available. So we did that. Once we had the APU available, we came up over here on the air conditioning panel right over there, and we got some air conditioning going to the aircraft. Now the next step would be, after the air conditioning panel, would be to tap your iPad and get the screen light up properly first. Cockpit lights. So the cockpit lights, you have some little switches right over here. That's your map reading lights. You've got some switches over here which will turn off and on the backlights in the cockpit. You got some floodlights here. If you want a collapsed sun right behind you, you just have to dial that up, and then you get that big bright light back over there. That's okay. We also have dome lights over here which you can turn off. That will turn off the dome lights, turn them back on again. I can see them. So that's basically what you gotta set up. It's all depending on your situation and how you like it. Some people like it dimmer. I personally like it brighter. So I'm gonna make sure that the cockpit is nice and bright, which is what it is right now. Next thing after cockpit lights is the ECAM recall push button. So right over here, that's the ECAM. Here's the recall push button. Gonna hold it down, and that will bring up any error messages we had on the ECAM. So as you can see, we have auto flight, and the wind shear detection is showing faulty, cabin pressure system 1 and 2 is showing faulty, and it's asking us to change the mode selected to manual, and the manual vertical speed control as required. That is not something we're going to be concerned with right now, because everything's turned off right now. Other systems are turned off right now. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to clear those messages away. We don't have any other critical systems that are showing faulty, so we're just going to continue with getting the aircraft up and running. After cockpit lights, ECAM push button recall, ECAM oxygen pressure, hydraulic quantity, and the engine oil quantity right there. Those items right there, that's what we want to get. So first thing is oxygen pressure. That's right over there. Oxygen pressure on the main ECAM page showing 1800 psi and in the green, so very good. Hydraulic pressure, so we're going to bring up the hydraulic page right there, and you're just looking to see that all the reservoirs are topped up. So you got the green, the blue, and the yellow system hydraulics. The hydraulic fluid is nicely topped up. We're good to go. Next item would be the engine oil quantity. We'll bring up the engine page. There we go. Oil quantity is 18.6 quarts in this one, 19.7 quarts in that one. We've got plenty. So systems on the aircraft are looking good. Next item we want to do is we want to check the flaps, and then we want to check the speed brake and the parking brake, and also the accumulator brake pressure. So what we're going to do now is we're going to come back up here, and if you look over there, there's your speed brake. It needs to be in the retracted position. If it's armed, you would see a little white light at line at the bottom of it, and it'll also say ground spoilers armed up here. But we don't want that right now, so we're just going to keep it down and make sure it's nicely retracted. Flaps, we want to make sure they are in the up and zero position, which they are now, and you can confirm that also simply by the flap indicator on the upper ECAM. Lastly, we want to look at the parking brake. Parking brake is in the on position right over there, and if you look over here, it also says parking brakes. If we turn the parking brakes off, the aircraft is chocked. So if you turn them off, that thing disappears. So I'm going to turn it back on, make sure the parking brakes are on. We also want to check the accumulator brake pressure, which is right over there. We've got plenty of pressure. This needle should be in the right hand side. If it was on the left, brake pressure is the accumulator pressure is low, but we do have accumulator pressure in there, so it's all good, which means if I step on the brakes, the aircraft will stop. So that's a good sign. Moving on, we're going to obtain the airfield data that we're going to do in a later episode. And now, as we scroll along, we're now coming down to the items of the pilot flying, which needs to be all of these items over here. First thing you want to do is all white lights need to be extinguished. So white lights are these buttons over here that have a white light behind them. All right, so we're going to start by extinguishing all of these white lights that we see. All right, now always remember the Airbus flow pattern is bottom to top, left to right. That's how we do that. All right, so we're gonna come back here, start from here. Crew supply, that's a white light. We push it, extinguish it. Coming up here, no white lights. That's all good. Coming down here, no white lights. No white lights. Keep scrolling up, and there we go. We got white lights on the fuel pump. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. 6 fuel pumps have come on. White lights are extinguished. Moving up there, no white lights. Coming down here again, no white lights on that panel. We're all good. So we're going to continue on with the rest of the items. All right, so now we're going to move on with the rest of the items. Coming back up here, we're going to go back to the same flow pattern that we had. So right over here, we come up here and you see the recorder. We're gonna make sure that the ground controller is turned on, and we do a CVR test. So when you hold this down here, you're gonna hear a sound. There's your sound, and the test is complete, and we're gonna leave it like that. Coming back up here again, no lights that are concern of us right now, but on the evacuation panel, we want to choose whether you want captain and purser or captain. We like to have it captain and purser. Now, if you look down here at these screens, you'll see that there's no information on those screens. Even on the first officer side, there's nothing there. That's because the aircraft has no position. The aircraft actually doesn't know where it is right now, or whether it's facing up, down, left, or right. It's completely confused. So that information is going to come from the IRSs. So that's up here, the ADIRSs. We're going to turn them on. And the sequence to turn them on is 1, put that to nav, 2, and then 3. So 1, 2, 3, you put the switches to nav, and they're going to do the little self-test, and then this on bat light needs to disappear. So that's done, and if you come back over here, you're going to see IRSs are in alignment, and it's going to take 7 minutes for them to do so. And once they are aligned, these screens will come back to life. I'll get back to you in just a few minutes once the IRSs are aligned. As you can see now, the IRSs have aligned, the alignment message is gone, and we've got our primary flight display, we've got a navigation display, same for the first officer's side, and the aircraft actually right now is fully initialized in terms of the IRSs. Moving on, so we've done that. Now we come down here and we're going to start with the exterior lights. So outside the aircraft, we are at the gate, so what we need right now is the nav lights need to come on, and we don't need the wing lights, we don't need the beacon right now, and we can keep the strobe lights on auto, and we do not need any of the forward facing landing lights right now. So we're going to leave those off. All right, coming to the right, seatbelt signs, no smoking, those need to be turned on right now. There we go. No seatbelt signs, no smoking. These are your emergency lights. That's gonna come on right now. And there we go. Emergency lights are armed. Coming right up here, you want to do an annunciator light check as well. So we're gonna turn that on right there. And that's gonna do what I call the Christmas tree. So it's gonna light up every button and switch in the cockpit. Really looks very nice. So as funny as it sounds, and I'm calling it a Christmas tree, it's actually quite a serious test, because considering that if a bulb was shorted out on any of these buttons, it wouldn't light up. So while we're still on the ground, we want to test all of them and make sure the lights are coming on, and that's the whole purpose of that test right there. All right, that's going to go put things back to normal. Now moving on, landing elevation needs to be in the auto position, which is right up there. If you move this knob and you move it out of auto, it's going to say manual landing elevation over there, but we do not want that. We want it in auto, so we're going to move that back to the 12 o'clock position. This can stay off. We don't need any anti-ice or engine anti-ice or even probe heaters. We can leave that in auto for now. So the way it works is you can push this button, it comes on manually, or you leave it in auto and it will work as required. Moving on up towards the air conditioning panel, as you can see, we've got the pack flow set to normal. You can change that to high or low if you wanted a more powerful blow out of the vents, and then you can adjust the cockpit temperatures as required. Okay, moving on. So we've done with the air conditioning panel, moving up to the electrical panel. So as you can see, the batteries are nicely charged up. We're still running off external power, and we're going to keep it like that until shortly before we push back. We have a couple of fault lights on Gen 1 and Gen 2. Now we can ignore those for now. That's because the IDGs are off, and because the main engines are turned off. So we're going to ignore those two fault lights for now. If we do start the engines and we still have those lights on, then we have a problem. But for now, we're going to ignore those. Moving up here, fuel panel, we've got no lights, no problems. Coming up here, hydraulics, we've got no fault lights on the hydraulic panel as well, so it's all good. Then moving up to the fire panel, so we did an APU fire test earlier, but eventually we're going to start up engine number 1, engine number 2, so we want to do a fire test for those two guys as well. So engine number 1, here's the fire test button right here. Hold it down. You're looking for 6 items. The big red light, 1, 2, the squibs, 3, master caution, 4, the upper ECAM message, 5, the fire warning light just near the engine master switch, and 6 is the sound. So those are the 6 items. I've just released the button, so the warning went away. So you're looking for 6 items, all right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the sound 6. So I'm going to do the same test for engine number 2 right now. You're looking for 6 items, all right? Count with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the sound 6. Releasing that, and we're good to go. So engine fire test is complete. Looking up here, first officer's wipers off, switches are guarded and no lights, no fault lights on the ventilation panel, no fault lights on the cargo smoke panel. Cargo heat's all right. Flight controls are looking good, no fault lights up there. And we want to get the third occupant, we want to get the PA on. That's this button over here. Gonna push that button so it lights up, and it's going to be in the 12 o'clock position. Continuing all the way up there, the audio switch needs to be in its normal position, and up there you want to see no lights on the maintenance panel. So that pretty much covers the overhead panel setup. And at any given time, if we want to switch away from external power and have them disconnect, we just have to push this button here, and then the ground crew, the aircraft will stop using external power and revert to the APU power, internal power, and then you can give the guys the green light to go ahead and disconnect the external power unit. So that's basically it in terms of the overhead panel. Moving on. Next thing we want to do is we're going to check the center instrument panel, which is right over there. So it's asking us to check the ISIS. Now it's not referring to a terrorist group, don't worry about that. It's the integrated standby instrument system. So that should be all set up and nicely working. And next thing it's looking for us to check is the clock. So we make sure the clock is set up and correct. And we also want to check the anti-skid and nose wheel steering switch. That's right over here near the landing gear, just above the landing gear lever, near the auto brake lights. The anti-skid nose wheel steering, if it was in the off position, trust me, the aircraft will tell you. It starts shouting at you. So it's telling you brakes, anti-skid nose wheel steering is off, and your maximum pressure that you can apply is 1000 psi before you run out of braking ability. So we're just going to make sure this thing stays back on, message goes away. Once you're done with the center instrument panel, you're going to come back down to what we call the pedestal, and you start all the way up there with the switching panel. All switches need to be in the 12 o'clock position in normal. Then you're going to make sure your radios are on and tuned into the correct frequencies, and that you are choosing what channel you want to transmit on and what you want to listen to. And of course you can do that on either side. And of course you also want to make sure that the thrust levers are in the idle position, nicely stored all the way back. Give it a good bump, make sure it's in idle. And coming back down again here, we're going to make sure that the engine master switches are turned off. Make sure the engine mode selector is in the normal position, weather radar is turned off, transponders on standby. And moving back again, spoilers are ground spoilers are disarmed and retracted, flaps at 0 position, selected and indicating, and the rudder trim is at 0. If it's not at 0, simply push the button, it resets itself to 0. And parking brakes on, and that the gravity gear extension lever is stored. Okay, that's this lever right here. It should be down and stored. And that's basically it in terms of the cockpit setup. So that in essence is how you get the aircraft from cold and dark, or if you live in a warm country, hot and dark, to up and running with the APU on, air conditioning, and pretty much all the systems ready to go. The next step from here would be to tune in our ATIS frequency, get the current weather information, and then check in with air traffic control, get our IFR and departure clearances, as well as our squawk code, program it all into the MCDU, make sure our flight plans uploaded in there, and then set our squawk code as per what ATC gives us. And then we can do the whole process of going through the checklists, and we'll also at that time remove the external power and start the pushback, start the engines, and then we'll taxi down to the runway and take off. All that's coming in the next video, so please stay tuned. And we just want to say a very big thank you for watching all the way from the beginning till now, and we really appreciate it. We're new to this, so we are very much wide open welcome to your comments and your feedback. And if there's anything specific that you would like to learn in the Airbus cockpit, or about the Airbus A320 specifically, let us know. That's what we're here for, and we'll be more than happy to make a very specific video about it. So I guess that's it for now. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and subscribe to the notifications if you want to. It's free, and you can always change your mind later if you don't want to be subscribed anymore. But we do appreciate it. It's going to help our channel, and it's going to help us just make better videos as we go along. Thank you so much again for watching, and you guys have a wonderful day.